Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. At the beginning of the video, I want to make a brief statement. Even though I'm an official content creator, all the viewpoints in this video are based on my genuine experience after using it for a month. If you find it helpful, please give it a thumb up. Let me first talk about why I like the X1 device. Actually, I have liked this kind of a 3-in-1 PC since the OnexPlayer 2. It combines the form factor of a handheld gaming device with office productivity features. But during frequent business trips, I would bring along the OnexPlayer 2 for some linear internal testing. Whether on the plane or on a high-speed train, I genuinely use it to play games. After each internal testing session, when I need to edit videos, I connect the magnetic keyboard and it transforms into a laptop. Back at the hotel, my roommate is a photographer who also enjoys playing games. We then connect to controller docks and play games like NBA 2K and all cooperative games together. In this way, the OnexPlayer 2 almost meets all my travel needs. When did I start liking the X1? At first, when I first encountered it, I thought it was similar to the OnexPlayer 5th generation or Microsoft service, to be used for office work, watching movies, and playing some casual games. But at the same time, I'm someone who really enjoys playing games. So after using the X1 for about a week, I was convinced. After using it for a month, I started bringing it with me every weekend. I don't usually carry a backpack to work, but the X1 has a back stand and a keyboard, so I can just hold it in my hands like that. It's lightweight and convenient. If it were a typical 14 or 15-inch laptop, I would need a backpack. But taking the subway could mean waiting in a long security check queues. Well, initially, like everyone else, I was concerned about its 10.95-inch screen. Can it be too large for handheld gaming? Can it be comfortably held with both hands in handheld mode? Of course, if you are talking about holding it continuously for pure gaming, a 7-inch OnexPlayer would definitely be more comfortable, right? However, after using a large screen, it's challenging for me to go back to a smaller one. Of course, I don't deny the advantage of a smaller screen. It's just my personal recent experience. On October 24th, when P Studio released Skyline 2, I played it right away. I started using the OnexPlayer to play for a while. When the population reached 120,000, I started using the OnexPlayer with the Onex GPU. I thought, even if the game optimization was poor, the graphics quality wasn't that great either. Later, when the X1 arrived, I transferred my save file and continued playing, connecting it to the Onex GPU using OCU link. At this point, I realized that the graphics in Skyline 2 has some potential. The overall visuals looked much better. I only noticed many details now. At this point, I really liked the large screen. Later on, besides gaming, I found myself using it for typing occasionally. Connecting the magnetic keyboard, the typing speed is decent. Perhaps I've gotten used to it, but using it for office tasks feels quite comfortable. These things are better understood after using them yourself. The hardware configuration and the specifications of the X1 are relatively high. Compared to similar products, its overall performance score is undoubtedly among the top. For devices with large screens, their batteries are not as large as the X1's, and they are not as lightweight. Thinner devices may not have as many ports as the X1, and the performance may not match up to the X1. Upon careful consideration, it seems like there aren't many competitors that can match the X1 in the 11-inch range. The X1 is equipped with the latest generation Intel Core i7 Ultra series CPU. I remember Intel promoting its AI capabilities during their launch event. Well, however, for us ordinary users, it seems like we may not really make use of those AI features. I just play games and do office tasks. The memory is LPDDR5X with a frequency of 7,467 megahertz, which is the maximum supported frequency of the Ultra series. It comes into two versions, 32 gigabytes and 64 gigabytes. As for how to choose, it depends on the games you play. For example, if you play games with requirements similar to the first Skyline, then you should go for the 64 gigabyte memory option. However, The second generation seems to be quite demanding on CPU calculations. Also, for games on emulators, I recommend choosing a large memory size. You can set the graphics memory through the front end, and the larger the graphics memory, the less likely emulator games are to crash due to running out of memory after extended playtime. The storage uses a standard M.2 2280 conventional SSD with PCIe 4.0, achieving read and write speeds of around 7,000 megabytes per second. With 2 TB of space, I can hardly run out of storage. The X1 is indeed very well equipped in terms of interfaces. Personally, for a PC device, if it doesn't have a standard USB-A port, it can be quite inconvenient for me. I often connect a USB drive, mouse, keyboard, and a printer. And having to use an adapter every time is not practical for everyday use. On the right side of the X1, there's a USB-A 3.2 port and a micro SD 4.0 TF card slot. On the left side, there are 2 full-featured USB 4 ports that support Thunderbolt 3 and Thunderbolt 4. At the top, there's a 3.5mm audio jack and a native OCU link, which is covered by a thoughtful lid. At the bottom, there's a pogo pin interface that allows you to connect a magnetic keyboard. On both sides of the device, there's a slide rail design. You can attach the game controller to use it as a handheld device. Of course, you can also connect it to the base and use it as a wireless controller. I'm personally quite satisfied with the design of the game controller this time. Looking at the shape, it can be described as a chicken leg grip, providing a very comfortable hold. The buttons are all micro switches, providing a crisp rebound. The D-pad also features an 8-direction micro switch, and the keycaps are replaceable. The speakers are still custom tuned by Harman, one on each side. There's the Harman tuning certification logo. Although I don't have professional recording equipment, well, I will let fans have a taste first. The sound quality is really good, and many nuanced details can be heard. The X1 has a battery capacity of 65 watt-hour, and it's quite impressive to fit such a large battery into such a small device. As a 3-in-1 PC, whether you use it for gaming or office tasks, battery life is undoubtedly better the longer it lasts. But each person may have their own acceptable threshold. And the battery life of the X1, in my opinion, is quite satisfactory. I don't always push the power consumption to the maximum when playing games. Also, most of the time, I play games that don't have high hardware requirements, or games that are well optimized, like NBA 2K, GTA, or indie games such as Dead Cells or Hollow Knight. Battery life is directly related to power consumption, and these games don't require high power consumption. And the longest I play games continuously is usually 2 to 3 hours. So it fully meets my requirements for battery life. When it comes to office tasks, it's even more impressive. Intel's power-saving capabilities for office tasks are quite good. It can easily handle a full day of office work. The power adapter is a 100-watt gallium nitride fast charger, and both ports can be used for charging. The X1 has a 10.95-inch screen with a maximum resolution of 2560 times 1600. The bezels on all sides are quite narrow. There's a front-facing camera here that supports some AI PC functions of the Core Ultra series. It's sufficient for regular video conferences. But what surprised me is that it has a refresh rate of 120 Hz. In games where the frame rate reaches 120, then you can experience the benefits of high refresh rates. Of course, if you don't need games to run at such a high frame rates, the daily tasks such as office work or web browsing still have a decent improvement in experience. After all, as a 3-in-1 PC, it's not just for gaming. Look at it from another perspective. I may not use it, but you must have it. I'm quite satisfied with the X1's cooling performance. I usually play games with a power consumption of 15 to 20 watts, and I don't feel much noise or excessive heat on the body. There's an intake event at the back of the device, and the hot air is expelled from the top. I really like this design where the air is blown out of the top because it directs the airflow away from the user, making it more reasonable than side venting. Even in handheld mode, if the power consumption is high, the controller helps to separate the heat. I've never liked handheld devices where the controller heats up. Holding a controller that gets hot in the palms, which are already prone to heat, becomes uncomfortable after playing for about 10 minutes. The system is running Windows 11, but the OnexPlayer has its own front-end control software called OneX Console. Since Windows and the Steam OS are different, each has its own advantages. Windows is versatile and supports a wide range of games, including emulators. It also serves as a work device. For me, Windows is the only choice as it allows me to play games, create graphics, edit videos, and type. Therefore, the front-end software for Windows handheld is essential, as it directly influences the gaming experience in handheld mode. The X1's front-end software is quite user-friendly. A short press brings up a quick settings window where you can adjust the CPU's power consumption, a feature I often use. Adjusting this setting is common among gamers, allowing for higher power consumption in large games and the lower power consumptions in 2D indie games. The second setting is fan speed, which I usually leave at the default setting. I also keep the vibration intensity as its default level. The performance display is another feature I frequently use. A quick tap shows frame rate and the power consumption information. A long press reveals options for global frame rate lock and adaptive power consumption. Most players might find useful. I also make use of the gyroscope, which can simulate a mouse, controller, steering wheel, or flight mode. It's a versatile feature that comes in handy whenever the gyroscope functionality is needed. Long pressing the quick setting key brings up the large screen mode. Here you have the game library, allowing you to quickly identify and access games installed on your device from various platforms with just one tap. Of course, you can manually add non-platform games, and you even have the option to customize the game name and image. The programming options for the controller are extensive. You can change the functions of the existing buttons, set secondary functions, and modify the dead zones of the joysticks and the linear trigger buttons. The X1's controller has two customizable buttons on the back, and you can set their functions here. Additionally, macro programming recording is supported. In nostalgic moments, I like to play some retro games. For example, in games like Dungeon Fighter, Card Rider, or MapleStory, which don't natively support controllers, but you don't want to use a keyboard, you can map the controller buttons to the corresponding keyboard functions using the programming options. This way, you can use the controller to play these games. I'm quite satisfied with the keyboard. It's challenging to make a perfect 104-key keyboard for a 10.95-inch device, especially considering that it needs to cover the screen when stored. The X1's keyboard has 5 rows of keys, providing all the basic functions, and it even has backlightings. The 2 rows of function keys on top are well designed, and the central alphanumeric keys are reasonably large. The key spacing appears to be close to a regular keyboard, featuring island-style chiclet keys that provide a crisp rebound. It's comfortable for typing, and my typing habit involves keeping my little finger stationary, so using the keyboard feels even more natural for me. Certainly, playing keyboard and mouse games or online games is quite satisfying. The WASD keys on the keyboard have noticeable color differences, making blind operation easy. Furthermore, the screen is excellent for playing online games, displaying details accurately. I currently sit about 50 centimeters away from the screen, and I don't feel any discomfort. The size is just right, and the text is clear. The frame rate is also quite high, ensuring smooth gameplay. The improvement brought by the Intel Core i7 Ultra processor is evident. Connecting the controller to play some large games, the micro switch buttons on the controller are comfortable to press. The feedback is stronger than conductive rubber and much better than the membrane buttons. Listen to the crisp impact sensation. Keep in mind that this is not the actual noise. I recorded it by placing the microphone very close. The controller closely follows the layout of an Xbox controller, making it easy to operate. Finger switching between different areas is smooth, and for handheld gamers, the demand for responsive D-pad is high, especially for those who play fighting games or nostalgic games on emulators. The X1's D-pad uses micro switches and supports 8 directional triggers. Now let's listen to the sound of the D-pad. The trigger buttons has a slight arc at the end, fitting the shape of the fingers during operation. In racing games, I can more accurately feel the throttle size, and the linear triggers provide a good experience, not just for driving games, but also for first-person shooter games. The design for these triggers is reminiscent for the triggers on weapons in games. When pressed, they vibrate with the motor, creating a satisfying sensation. This controller provides a great experience when playing games in handheld mode, whether it's racing games, action games, or independent 2D games. The controllers feel smooth and comfortable. This is my impression of the X1 after using it for a month, along with sharing some use cases in different scenarios. In the next video, I will conduct some hardware and performance tests, and see you in the next episode.